In today's video, I'm going to break down exactly the major two creative approaches and frameworks. Overall, we can call them the strategies that you can use to actually get to 30, 40, 50, sometimes even $100,000 per day. Now, what you're seeing on the screen over here is just one of our clients that we have that we're working with right now. We typically work, if you are a new viewer, with 8-figure brands and 7-figure brands. This is just one of our own clients, just so you understand the type of caliber of clients that we typically used to working with. Here's the refresh so you know this is real. And now, with no further ado, let's get right into it to discuss some strategies. Great, so let's actually get into business and talk about some real life creative strategies that you can implement today to your business to dramatically increase your chances of getting to 8 figures or multiple 8 figures if you're already doing 8 figures. So let's get into it. There's two major ways that I've seen across, and I've been fortunate enough to work with over 100 brands, 8-figure brands, 7-figure brands. So I see the difference and I see the data, and this is literally, I'm reflecting what the data told me to this channel and to you guys. So we can assume that there's two major creative approaches to actually make this work. There's either, number one, creative mass volume. So you basically go ahead and launch many ads, and I'm gonna talk about what many means in just a second. I'm gonna show you some real life examples of brands that do $5, $10 million a month. I'm going to show you what they're doing, which also implies mass volume. The other way, this is extremely hard, by the way. So I'm not excluding it to the equation because it obviously works, but it's extremely hard, especially if you run a business where it's lean. You maybe are working with an agency, you're maybe doing $2, $3, $4, $500,000 a month, maybe even $1 million a month. I've seen lean teams, right? These are the types of teams that have like mass volume. It's typically a lot bigger and a lot more structured. Either way, it's possible. I can talk about it briefly. Second thing is quality over quantity, which is a lot more sustainable. Instead of mass producing many ads, which once again, I'll talk about what I mean by many, you'll be surprised when I show you some numbers. There's this other approach where we start focusing and putting all of our energies and resources towards really increasing the ad hit rate. Basically, we want to decrease the number of ads that it takes us to actually find winners, right? So we don't want a structure where, of course, if we're doing this approach, where it takes us like 100 ads to find one winner, we want a structure where there's like a 10%, 15%, 20% hit rate. And I'm going to talk about exactly how this works and how we do it. Now, let's talk about this first method, which obviously works, it's proven, but it's just really complicated. So in my other videos, let me just read what I wrote here. In my other videos, I explain how creative volume should only increase if your ad hit rate is good. And I 100% stand by it. However, there is also one other type of creative volume, the real creative volume, that is something that not many comprehend. Just because, and I'll explain in just a second, just because the creative volume that people think is a creative volume is just not creative volume, okay? People think creative volume is like 100, 200 ads a month. That's not what I'm talking about. If you opt in for real creative volume, you are competing against this type of volume, which is the real volume. And I'm gonna just bring up a screenshot here from Goalie. I'm gonna show you their live dashboard in just a second. They're doing 3 million a month, and this is just across TikTok Shop. They're a big company. I'm not sure exactly how big, but I'm sure that they're doing over $10 million a month. So this is an example of a big company. This is how much volume these brands are pushing, okay? And this is an example of creative scaling volume, this mass scaling volume method. Let's call it method number one, this yellow one over here. They're launching 46,000 ads a month, 1,540 ads per day, basically ads. And this is, of course, through many affiliates, right? They're onboarding dozens and dozens of affiliates every single, basically, day and hour of the day, right? And they are able to produce $46,000. So, long story short, if you think creative volume is 200 ads a month, you're not going to be able to compete with this type of volume. And just look at the numbers and the proportions. 46,000, 3 million a month, 4 million a month, 5 million a month. I think there was also a period where they were doing 7 million a month, okay? And so you're competing against this. So this is basically just a comparison, right? Let me just shrink myself here a little bit more. Just a comparison. This brand is running 50,000 ads a month, new ads, and you're running 200 thinking that you're scaling. So the creative volume decreases, of course, decreases the ad quality, right? So you can push creative so much, but the quality of your ads is just going to decrease, just like anything. If you do more of something, the quality is going to decrease. But I think it's worth it if you push 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 ads, maybe even 5,000 ads a month, right? Maybe you can probably get some good results, of course, but 50,000 is probably a lot better than 200 if you want to opt in for that approach. So this is what actually happens. So this is the ideal scenario. So let's just say you're doing 200 ads in a single month, and that is your mass scaling approach, right? And by the way, like, we've tried this. Like, this is from also my personal experience. We've actually went on and done 100, 200 ads every single month for one client. and it just gets too cluttered and really hard to scale. But let me just finish up the framework and the comparison that I'm making over here to prove my point. This is you, maybe 100, 200 ads. Your hit rate is 1%, which is not scalable, right? It's not scalable, but it's the hit rate, even if it's like not completely horrible, like dog shit horrible, it's still not enough to make this 200 ads, like make a difference with just 200 ads. And I say just 200 ads because I'm comparing it to the 50,000. Now let's just assume that Goalie, not assume, we know it, let's just go through the example. They're running 50,000 ads, and let's assume that their hit rate, because they're scaling so much, is 7 to 8 times smaller than yours. So they have so many resources, they have a better marketing team, right, and everything, but their hit rate is 7, 8 times worse than yours. Maybe that's not the case, probably not, because they have a good team, but let's just assume that because they're scaling so aggressively, and so the quality decreases. With this rate, the ad hit rate is basically the number of ads that it takes to find a winner. So in this example, out of 200 ads, 1% hit rate means 2 winners. So you're able to scale 2 winning ads quite profitably and able to really increase the spend. And this, if you equate to what it looks like, it's probably 100, 200, 300, maybe $500,000 a month business. Like if you, and you're like so overloaded and so burnt out because you're literally doing 200 ads a month, right? And so your small team, whatever, 5, 10 people, it's just, they get overloaded. This one over here, even if it's a 0.15% hit rate instead of 1%, they're still able to find 100 winners, which is 50 times more, technically 50 times the size of your business. In fact, 100,000, let's say 200,000 times 50, whatever that is, it's in the millions per month. So that is basically the difference of the two. So once again, this is just a really hard approach. Conclusion, what is the conclusion here, Brando, that I'm trying to say? The conclusion here is that only scale with creative volume, mass creative volume, if you can hit these numbers, like mass thousands and thousands of videos every single month. If you're not able to do that, then it's also really expensive because these are all products that you need to send out. You're sending all these products, you're sending basically 10,000 units, 5,000, even if it's 5, even if it's 3,000 units every single month to creators. So that's also expensive in itself, right? You're just giving up a lot of inventory. And of course, they're giving up a lot of inventory because they see the return, of course, but maybe, if you're a smaller business, maybe you don't have that much inventory in hand, right? So here is a better, more scalable approach. Focus on quality of ads instead of quantity to drastically improve your ad hit rate, which is what I told you before. Go from a 1% hit rate to a 13% hit rate. In fact, there's several examples, even of our own clients, where we just take a step back. Instead of running so many ads, we run 30, 40, 50 ads a month instead of like 200, 300, something crazy. And we really focus on the strategy and the research. Every single ad that we put has a strategic scientific methodology that has to be reproduced based on winning concepts that have worked prior because of us, maybe our own creatives, or because of our competitors, because we're funnel hacking. So this is just an example, random, of a client, for example, that is doing 12% hit rate. This is just one of our own clients. They're hitting 12%. So out of like 8 tests that we run, I don't know the proportion there, 8, 9, 7 tests, one is a winner. What is a winner? Something that spends, at least in the tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, with a profitable ROAS. And I'm going to explain what I'm showing you here in just a second. But we have a tracker, an ad hit rate tracker. If you're not tracking the way and the rate of which you find medium to large size winning ads, you're pretty much guessing. You're doing some guessing work. So this is also the main difference between an 8-figure business and a 7-figure business. 8-figure businesses, typically the ones that do like 20 million, 50 million a year, they track all of these numbers methodically, right? And so let me just go back over here. So as you can see over here, the 1% hit rate is basically just one ad, right? And it's not scalable. And this only works if you run 5,000 plus ads every single month, and that is the volume that you're willing to sacrifice. In that case, 1% is like a lot because it makes sense with the proportion. This is kind of like an example with like average order value and conversion rate, right? Your conversion rate could be 1%, but if your average order value is like so high, like $300, $400, then the economics make sense. Same thing can be applied over here, but we want to opt in for 13% or 10, 13, 15%, which is scalable. And that can scale a brand that tests 30 plus ads per month, 30, 40 ads. Typically the standard that we, whenever we onboard a new client, we try to test 8 concepts per week, which maybe 5 concepts per week, which is basically around 15 ads every single week, right? Because the concept is the concept, but within each concept there's like 2 to 3 to 4 tests depending on the concept that we want to test. So 15 ads a week, whatever that is, 10, 20, 30, 40, basically 50 to 60 ads per month. That is more than enough if you have intent behind the way that you market you create your ads, right? So let me go over something. How do we focus on increasing this hit rate? There's two major things that you need to focus on. Number one, extensive creative research. If you don't do your research, this strategy is not going to work. Just do other things. Do a lot more like mass scaling with product seeding. Do whatever you want. It's not going to work with this method if you want to increase your hit rate. So extensive research is a given. You have to do it. Number two, scientific creative tracking, which is kind of what I showed you before. I'm going to expand on that in just a second. Just give me 2 more minutes here. What is the final result is high hit rate and of course $1, $2, $3, $4 million a month. So there's multiple ways to do this. Once again, there's 2 ways: mass scaling and just focusing on hit rate. I'm not saying I prefer one over the other. It's just really based on how your business is structured, right? In most cases, option 2 is better. This one over here. So which is what we optimize for. So let's talk about extensive research, the orange one over here. So ideally, this is the ideal situation. Ideally, we onboard a creative team, we onboard an agency, whether it's in-house, outsourced, agency, not agency, doesn't matter, okay? Ideally, we share all of these, as many winning frameworks and assets to this creative team so they know exactly, they basically have a wholly creative document. So they know exactly what frameworks work, what are the buying triggers, what is the avatar main customer, so they know everything about it. What does the customer mining research say about the customers? What do they like, dislike? What are the required B-rolls? And what are the winning ads broken down by the second? We literally give that, and I'm going to show you in just a second what I mean by that. Essentially, we get all of these concepts, we put it into this document, and then we give it over to the creative strategists, the editors, the copywriters, the graphic designers, the head of performance, the CMO, whatever you want. And this will 100% increase efficiency, increase the profitability of your ads, decrease the time that you spend to find winners, and of course the winner is of course increase the hit rate of your ads. Instead of running 100 ads to find one winner, you run 10, 8, 9, 10, 12 ads, right? Maximum. And so that of course also decreases the burnout of your team, because you're gonna have a burnt out team if they produce 200 ads and you tell them, hey, nothing works, I'm sorry, you got to do it again. So I mean, you get the point. So here are just some documents that we dive deeper and provide to our team that really add value to this entire process. Let me start with document number 1. First thing that we do is actually we do a scientific breakdown of the best winning ads. So this is like a 30-40 page document. You know, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of time and resources, but this is 1000% worth it, because your creative team will love you. Your editors will already have the frameworks that make a winning ad a winner. So in this example for this client, the podcast style, and this is the link to the ad, worked very well. So what do? We complete an ad breakdown of the framework. So the hook happened, then this happened, and this happened, then there was a curiosity trigger in the middle of the video, then there's a before and after transformation. We basically break down the ad segment. We understand the buying triggers, right? The desires, the frustrations, improvement in life, whatever that is. We understand what triggers and motivates people to buy, and then we break it down scene by scene, by every second. Why do we break it down scene by scene? For example, 0 to 1, 2 to 9, 10 to 15, 16 to 17. These are all frames that allow us to understand and break down the ad, the 30-second ad, the 1-minute ad, the 2-minute ad, exactly by the second. Why is this important? It's really important because if you can understand what makes a winning ad, then you have all the resources to make it again. And so you have to understand that winning ads are winning ads because they have a very long retention rate in terms of viewers watch the entire ad. And so just keep in mind that in order for us to lose focus, it takes us 3 seconds, 5 seconds. And this is why we're trying to dissect these ads by every 3 to 5 seconds, because we know for a fact, based on data, that is the amount of time that it takes us to lose focus. So if these ads have high retention, it means that they're pretty much structured in a perfect way. So we have to dissect them strategically and scientifically, just like this document over here. So we do it for this ad. We also do it for this other winning ad that is a UGC ad. It worked very, very well. We break down the ad framework, the buying trigger, and then scene by scene, right? You get the point. Same thing we do with other things. Customer review mining. This is something that is so valuable. This is another document that we provide. What we essentially do is that we mine all reviews on Amazon, on your website. We try to get the real reviews, the raw real reviews, so that this data is not biased or unbiased. And so we try to get unbiased reviews. That's what I'm trying to say. And so by analyzing these reviews, we put it into ChatGPT, and it gives us like a document that looks something like this, that tells us these are the use cases of the product. for the most part. This is the customer sentiment, right? What's good? What needs to be improved? What do people think about your product? What are the motivations and expectations? What are the purchase motivations? 71% just buy because of skin improvements, for example. 7.6% is anti-aging concerns, right? So you can understand what angles you can actually come up with to sell to your customers. The who, the when, the where, right? Who is customer loyalty, skincare enthusiasts, adult customers, women, whatever. It's basically dissecting everything and giving you very clear answers. So this is one research. Another type of research that we do is just a research template where we basically understand. Let me show you very quickly. We understand the product. It's a market research. It's about the product. We study the market and we study the different levels of awareness, right? The 5 W's, for example, the why do people buy, the fears they have, the desires that they have. This is just a template. That's why it's not filled up. We do product research, right? Main features, advantages, disadvantages. How can we position our product in a different way to the marketplace? And then we study the different levels of awareness of the market. The most aware, the product aware, the solution aware, people that are problem aware, and then people that are completely unaware of the solution that we're trying to provide. What are the stages? What are the levels of awareness? And then we come up with this is a full-on research. It might sound boring. Hopefully I'm not making it too boring for you, but to get the results, you got to do the boring work. So we spend 50-60% of our time doing the research, and then the rest of our time doing the actual creatives, and then we only spend like 5% of our time on the ad account, to be honest, because it's actually not that complicated to run an ad account. It becomes complicated when you start spending, of course, like $10,000-$20,000 a day, or even $7,000 a day. You get the point. But let me just get into one last document that we really use. One really key document that really helps us is combining and putting all the required B-roll shots, as you can see over here. What are the required B-roll shots to actually make winning ads like this one happen again, right? Once we dissect and scientifically break down why winning ads work, we understand and what B-rolls we need, as you can see from this column. And so we put all the required B-rolls over here. For example, right, we do screenshots of the B-roll. So whenever we send this document to the creators or the UGC creators or partners or ambassadors, whoever is providing the content for us, they know exactly what they need to reproduce because they can see it over here. And there's also a small explanation. So this document also is like 30 pages long, as you can see, like super, super, super long. But it takes time, resources, and energy, but it's so worth it because it's a set and forget thing. And then, of course, you can always improve upon it. But it's so important because this is the resource that you can leverage and send to the creators. Why is it so important? Because once again, we studied these segments and we know that these segments are winners and are proven, right? So if we can get and extrapolate that type of content, of course, reproduce our own content. We don't want to copy and paste stuff, but get it and understand it. Then my creative team can go ahead and get all of these resources, all of these other resources, put everything into a doc and take advantage of it so that they have the clear framework of how to reproduce winning ads. Okay, this is super important. Next thing, scientific creative tracking. If you don't have a systematic way of tracking all of your ads, you should not even get into this in the first place. So this is how we do it. Let me just go back to my other sheet. We basically have a tracking sheet for ads that looks something like this. Every single time we do a creative test, we go over here and we put it on this sheet. What is the concept? It's an us versus them. Great. What is the marketing angle that we use? The main emotion, the avatar, the hook, the messaging, the copy, the creatives. Is it an image? Is it a video? Is it a GIF? Whatever it is. Is the video live? Is the creative concept live? Was it profitable? Was it not profitable? And then, of course, we record all the data, spend, ROAS, CTR, cost per click, conversion rate, average order value, CPMs, and hook rates and hold rates. So to better understand the retention of the ad, right? And once we have all this, we basically have everything that makes that creative concept so that we can understand why it worked or why it failed, right? And so as you can see, other people are joining here to get it. You can get your own sheet over here. If you click the link down below, there's a link to the sheet. It's called Command Center. That's how I call it. You can just get it, give me your email, and then through an automation, I'm just going to send it to your inbox. And by the way, there's so many other things in the sheet. There's an ROI calculator, a daily report, a creative concept sheet, a CRO track. There's so much, honestly. So take advantage of it. It's completely free. Guess what we can do once we have all these columns in place? We can create graphical representations like this, where it tells us, okay, these creative concepts are working. This is also working because of the win rate. This is the ad format testing. These are the numbers that we tested of angles that we tested every single month. Right? And so once again, this is super helpful. Just imagine for 1 second that you can have a situation where you can filter by ad copies or you can filter by hooks, at the same time filter by ROAS. So you can look at all of your ad copies and understand them and dissect them by filtering by ROAS. So you can literally get the ad copy number 2 that was the most profitable one and combine it with a hook that was also very, very successful. And so now you can start putting together the components just by being so scientific and methodical with these systems and processes. Now, this video is gonna go towards an end. I hope this was valuable. I do tend to repeat myself a bit over these videos, also last videos, but these are so important, or else I wouldn't be repeating these things over and over again. Hopefully something stuck to your mind. If you are a brand doing at least $100,000 a month, plus or minus, and you're looking for a partner to get you to the next level, whether the next level is 500K a month, $1 million a month, 5 million a month, we have experience working with brands doing multiple 8 figures and 7 figures. So we have extensive experience. If you are one of those people and you're interested in engaging at least a conversation, just book a link down below. You're going to probably speak to me or one of my team members, and then we can pretty much come up with a custom plan of action to see if there's synergy between us. And then of course, if there's no synergy, or if we can just cannot help you because maybe we're at full capacity, we're just going to redirect you or transfer you over to one of our partners that makes the most sense. Okay, hopefully you saw some value in this video. Don't forget to download the command center sheet, and definitely see you in the next video. Hopefully see you on the call. Bye.